Dublin, November 180 Bravo Bravo with it.
November 180 Bravo Bravo, good afternoon to you. Report your altitude.
2,000 feet on 1014 Bravo Bravo.
Bravo Bravo, understand you're looking for 60, so climb not above, initially not above 4,000 feet on the QNH 1014.
4,000 feet, Bravo Bravo.
Correct, what's your requested routing?
Let's go amend direct.
521 ready, cleared right.
Hi guys, vlog 100. Never thought we'd get there, but here we are, vlog 100. And the theme of the vlog is there a perfect machine for Xplane 10? I don't believe that machine has been built yet, although you can buy computers around about the £2,000 mark. I've even seen one computer at £9,000. I'm still not sure that those machines will be able to run Xplane 10 completely maxed out. So it'd be interesting to find out what is the perfect machine. As I say, I don't think there is one, but there is a way of making Xplane 10 work for you because it is eminently scalable. That means that you can make huge adjustments in all sorts of areas, and it will then look very, very good for you. So first off, we need to figure out certain things. I'm going to tell you what my machine is, and then we can work from there, I suppose. I guess mine's a high-end PC, they say it is, I don't know, but I've got a Maximus 7 Rampage Intel Z97 dual channel DDR motherboard. Okay, so that's the Maximus gaming motherboard. Intel i7 chip, it's a 440 Haswell CPU. I've got 32 gig of dual channel DDR3 RAM, so 32 gig, and that's the important thing. And I'm running a Galaxy GTX Gamer GTX 980 graphics card with 4 gig of RAM. Okay, hope you got all that. Now, so that's my setup. Okay. The first thing I need to do is destroy a myth or two. Okay, so I'm going to destroy a myth or two, and this is the whole thing about 32-bit and 64-bit. Okay, 32-bit applications, we know you can only access about 3 gigabytes of RAM. Okay, so if you've got a 32 gig machine, you'll only be able to access 3 gigabytes of RAM, and that means that when it comes to your settings, you've got to be really, really careful about how you do things. Okay, not so much in Xplane, but on the other platform, when you start getting to that limit, you will have out of memory crashes. Okay, and crash to desktops. 64-bit means that you can access all of the RAM that you have on your PC, up to, I believe it's a theoretical 256 gigabytes of RAM. I'm not quite sure, but whatever RAM you have in your machine, you will be able to access all of it. Okay, now what this doesn't mean, what 64-bit doesn't mean, it doesn't mean faster graphics. Okay, it doesn't mean faster graphics. What it means is that you can load more stuff into memory, which will be able to go onto your screen, yeah, within a limitation. All right, so the only way that you get more frames per second, more frames per second is with your CPU, so that's your central processing unit, and GPU, which is your graphics processing unit. Okay, those are the only two ways. So if you have a strong graphics card with a strong chip, main motherboard chip, then you're going to have good FPS. Yeah, the more RAM you have, so I've got 32 gig of RAM, means that I can actually put more objects into memory ready for use on the screen. All right, so the only way you get faster FPS is with a good chip and a good graphics card. Some of the latest graphic cards, like the Titan with 12 gigabytes of RAM, they are immense, but I only know of one person who's got one of those, and I'm still not quite sure that he has got his Xplane maxed out. So, time for my notes. Okay, so I've already told you 64-bit of RAM does not mean it's going to be faster, but it does mean that you're going to get the opportunity to load more objects. All right. Now, what an awful lot of people don't realise is that within Xplane 10 there is a manual. It's a very big manual. It's 191 pages long. Okay, 191 pages long. But there's one section which is the important section, and that's paragraph 4.8. Okay, paragraph 4.8 is all about configuring the system. And when the manual was written, it was written from the point of view of being able to tell you everything about all of the rendering options, okay? So it talks about every specific rendering option, and it talks about the cost benefits against performance, okay? And you really do need, I tell everybody, you need to read that section of the manual, because then you get a clear understanding of what each rendering option does. Now, I've done this myself, I've gone through this myself, and something that I found out quite early on and hadn't realised when I first got Xplane is that the whole area around HDR rendering and anti-aliasing is counterintuitive. I say that because in the other platform, when we start talking about anti-aliasing, we tend to think that the higher the anti-aliasing, the better the performance. And in the other platform, that's true, okay? But in Xplane, it works slightly different because we have HDR rendering. And HDR rendering is the way that Xplane is supposed to be seen, okay? So, you should have HDR rendering on. Okay, so you turn HDR rendering on, but then when it comes to the HDR anti-aliasing, okay, option, HDR anti-aliasing option, it's saying set to FXAA only, okay, FXAA only. There is a 4 times FXAA anti-aliasing option, but what that does, it draws everything 4 times larger and then downscales it, okay, and that will have a serious impact on your PC. It'll have a serious impact on your frame rates, okay. So what you want to do, and I'll be very clear about this, HDR rendering on and HDR anti-aliasing set to FXAA only, and you'll see huge differences in frame rates there. Not only will you see huge differences in frame rates, you'll also see a lot more stability. The other thing I need to say about rendering options is that for the most part, everything should be set at default, okay? So world detail draw distance, rather than having it on at maximum or extreme or whatever it is, set it to default. Because the default setting is the setting that the artist, the graphic artist, have drawn everything, and that's how they expect the world to appear. So default settings. So in terms of trees, set to default first, okay? In terms of roads and cars, set the roads to default. Don't go any higher. Put everything to default and then have a look at how your Xplane looks. And if it looks okay, and if your frame rates are good, then that's fine, because once you get above 10,000 feet anyway, the world begins to look flat. Things look differently from 10,000 feet. And what you need to remember is that for everything that you put into that machine, it's going to have an impact on FPS. So have a go, have a look at the settings, and what I do suggest is you read the manual, even if you only read paragraph 4.8 in the manual. The manual is inside your Xplane directory. It's inside a folder called Instructions, and not only is it in English, but I think it's in French and German as well, and I believe it might even be in Spanish. Not only that, but inside that folder is a document which shows you all the key presses for Xplane 10. So the default key presses. So if you're struggling with some options, you'll find it in there. So there you go. That's my thing about the perfect PC. I don't believe a perfect PC has been built yet. As I always say, if you're going to buy a PC or you're going to build a PC, buy the best that you can afford at the time. Because rest assured, within 6 months of you building it, your machine will be obsolete. It's just, that's Moore's law comes into effect. Okay, so you build or you buy the best you can afford at the time. I know that my machine now, if I was to buy my machine now, it would be a lot cheaper. That means if I'd waited until now, instead of last January, I would have been able to buy a better spec machine. But, that's Moore's law, so you can't get around that. Anyway, I said we was going to have a giveaway. We're going to have a giveaway. I'm going to give away Amsterdam, a box set of Amsterdam Airport, and I need to think of something, and I think what I'm going to say is, what I've done 100 videos on my YouTube channel. 100 videos on my YouTube channel. If anybody can figure out what the first tutorial video is, and the first person to put that in the comments, and I'll read all the comments, then you get the giveaway. Okay, so the first person to figure out what my first tutorial video is on my YouTube channel. Okay, you take care, everybody, and I'll see you soon. Cheerio.